I like to tell people that I want to bring you on an emotional journey with me. We are going to laugh. I'm like one part motivational comedian, and we're also going to cry. Like, we're going to talk about the hard things, but by the end of it, you're going to feel this release that is unlike any other. And I think for me, it's the vulnerability that makes people feel seen and understood and less alone. And there is so much healing. But I think for me to be able to share that in a way that's impactful, it took some of my own healing first.
Welcome to Amplify with Jess Ekstrom, a show designed to help women get out of their head and into their zone of influence. Today, we are joined by Kiah Twisselman Burchett, also known as Coach Kiah. She's a California cattle rancher turned a life coach, motivational speaker, and MC. I met Kiah at a speaking gig in all places in the women's bathroom, where of course, all great connections happen. And I'm so excited to have her on our show. Because while she was making a name for herself on the speaking circuit, her life coaching and speaking career happened, honestly, by accident.
I'd lost over 100 pounds in a year. And this was at a time when media couldn't go out and get their stories. And so this woman who had this transformational story, who happened to capture and document the entire thing, who had this really cool message, it was just an easy sell for these PR agencies to pitch my story. So I was on People Magazine, I was in Good Morning America, Kelly Clarkson, Access Hollywood. And it was just this huge snowball the summer of 2020. And suddenly I had this online platform. And at the time I had my own business. I was doing freelance marketing and watercolor illustration of all things. And I got to ask myself, do I want to continue doing this marketing, or do I want to lean into the coaching space, which I had already done kind of just, behind the scenes. I had never advertised that I was a life coach. It was just work I was doing with women because I loved it so much. And that's really what gave me this opportunity to pivot. But, I'll say, Jess, that the time that I really took myself serious as a public speaker and as a motivational speaker was probably after the Kelly Clarkson show, which you had mentioned. I was on Kelly Clarkson the spring of 2021, and they had surprised me on air. We were taping with the author who had kind of, I would say, sparked my personal, development journey, which was Rachel Hollis. I had read her book on an airplane the same day that I had to ask for a seatbelt extender. And it was just kind of divine timing, a message that I needed to hear when I was finally ready to receive it. And they surprised me on the Kelly Clarkson show with Rachel Hollis herself. And I lost my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Just to be able to meet the person that kind of sparked that and be able to thank them. When I met her backstage, she had invited me on air to come as a VIP guest to her speaking event that she had coming up. But once I met her backstage, out of the blue, just spur of the moment, she said, wait a second, do you want to be a keynote speaker? And it was a resounding yes for me. And I don't think it was until then when I got to be on a stage that felt like I had finally made the big leagues. I had the big LED screen behind me. I had the Britney Spears microphone, professional cameras. And I thought, oh my gosh, first of all, I love this. It feels so easy, I don't mean easy as in this is a simple career, but it felt so natural to me. And that's when I decided to go all in on the speaking and really the message that I speak into women's mostly, but broader audiences as well, is to really learn how to heal our relationships with our bodies from the inside out, really this mental and emotional transformation. I don't really care if women change their body or lose weight. That's the message that I received and us as women received forever since we were little girls. And I did the thing, I lost the weight. And when I got to the peak of the mountain, when I accomplished the dream, I realized that, weight loss is not the answer to learning to love and accept your body. It actually has very little to do with your body. That is an internal journey. And that's the journey that I like to take people on now when I get on stage.
So what is that journey? And I remember so vividly when after I met you in the bathroom, and we were both speaking at this conference, and you were also emceeing, which I think is super impressive. That is not a skill set I feel like I have. And I remember you telling the story about being on the airplane and asking for the seatbelt extender. And it was such I've seen so many speakers, and that was like one moment that was just so imprinted in me, the way that you told it. But it probably had taken you some time to be able to share some of our most vulnerable moments for the greater good of others on stage. Was that a challenge for you, or how do you go about? I mean, you are very generous in what you share and how deep you go in the service of others. And I'm curious, like, what has that been like for you? Like the depth that you're willing to go for other people?
Well, first, thank you for that. It's my goal always to be authentic and vulnerable with my community. But what I will say is that I think in order for us, in my opinion, to be able to share a vulnerable message in a way that resonates and deeply impacts and supports others who might be on that same journey or understand those feelings, I think in order to do that in an impactful way, we need to have gone through it and also gone through the healing part of it as well. I think being vulnerable for the sake of being vulnerable, I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but I think for me, it's about giving myself space to experience my hard things and navigate through it internally by myself, like really work through the motions of what I'm feeling so that I can help to understand how to overcome that before I start sharing that message with other people, if that makes sense. I think it does take some courage to be vulnerable. I know Brene Brown always talks about how she has vulnerability hangovers after she, like dumps all the things that she's going through. But what I've discovered as a speaker now is that it is the things that we generally feel most shame about that are the most healing for other people to hear. And my message has changed quite a bit, even since the last time you heard me speak, Jess. And I like to tell people that I want to bring you on an emotional journey with me. We are going to laugh. I'm like one part motivational comedian, and we're also going to cry. Like, we're going to talk about the hard things, but by the end of it, you're going to feel this release that is unlike any other. And I think for me, it's the vulnerability that makes people feel seen and understood and less alone. And there is so much healing that can happen from that place. But I think for me to be able to share that in a way that's impactful, it took some of my own healing first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talk about that a lot in Mic Drop Workshop, is like, you have to be able to share the experience like when it's in your rearview mirror and not in the driver or the passenger seat. And so, because a lot of times, like, the best parts of our talk can come from some of our moments that might be hardest to share or revisit. And some of the things I talked about today have taken me like 12 years to be able to finally sift through, figure out how I feel about it now and what the greater message is for the audience. But I do want to talk about something that we, of course, like, we only work with women at Mic Drop Workshop. And so much of the verbiage around confidence is masculine, like, deepen your voice and stand big and tall and like take up space. And of course, there's a time and place for some of those things. But I think that the message that that's sending is that, like, powerful leadership is masculine. And so therefore women have to edit themselves in order to be seen as confident, powerful leaders, where countless studies and examples show that women in sometimes our most feminine tendencies have great leadership qualities. But if we're told that they're not it, then that's going to lead to not feeling confident. So how do you work with people to be confident? Let's start like physically, standing on stage, because that is a vulnerable spot to be in. I mean, literally definition of a spotlight. Everyone's looking at you. If you have any doubts about yourself, your body, your clothes, like, that is the time where it will come to surface. So, like, what advice do you have for that?
This is so good because you're right. I mean, just standing on stage, whether you open your mouth or not, is a very vulnerable thing for a lot of people. And I think public speaking is one of the number one fears. And I think a lot of people assume that I am 100% confident on stage all the time. And yes, I am really confident on stage now. However, do I still get those nerves? Yes. And I think you mentioned this earlier, is that so many of our nerves that happen before we get on stage is coming from that place of ego, right? It's, am I going to say the wrong thing? Am I going to trip and fall? Am I going to look like a fool? Am I going to sweat through my shirt? And what I've come to find is helpful for me is, what if I just say, yes, all those things are going to happen, and I'm going to use it to serve my audience even better. I had this moment on the Kelly Clarkson show. I was, sitting backstage. I was wearing this bright pink dress, and we actually talked about this too, Jess. I always sweat, especially in my right armpit. My armpit sweats way more than my
We
left.
do have that in common. I forgot that you are one of the people.
I'm one of the right
that we can
armpit
talk
people.
about that.
I'm probably sweating through my dress right now, right armpit specifically. And I was sitting backstage before the Kelly Clarkson show, and I was pitting out something severe. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to go on national television like a sweaty bish. And I just, what now? And I had this moment. A lot of times I will, if I find myself kind of spiraling in this ego space, I will legitimately walk into the bathroom and I will look in the mirror and I will give myself a pep talk. And I think what helps me as a speaker is reminding myself that it is not about me. Yes, I'm the one on the stage. Yes, I'm the one with the microphone. But me being a speaker actually has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with being a mouthpiece for my message and having it resonate with the people that are in the audience. It's actually about them. And my reframe on the Kelly Clarkson show that continues to help me every single time I go on stage is, yeah, I might sweat through my shirt and be really sweaty on stage. And I'm going to make other sweaty women in the audience feel so much less alone if I can do so without apology and shame. And that feels so empowering. Now I'm like, yeah, if I fall, amazing. If I have sweaty pits, awesome, because I'm a human being. And if I can still show up confidently, aside from all those things that we deem as embarrassing and horrifying, it is actually going to be so empowering for the people in the room. So if the worst thing happens, amazing. How are we going to use it moving forward? But that aside, in terms of showing up in our confidence on stage, I think I love that you brought up the masculine and even just thinking about what we're supposed to do on stage, how we're supposed to dress, how we're supposed to act. I think that as a speaker, the most important thing is that you show up in a way that makes you feel really confident. I used to get on stage with like heels and dark denim jeans and a blazer because, that felt strong and powerful.
What you were supposed to
Yes.
do. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Jess. These hips have a really hard time finding jeans that actually like my body. And blazers feel a little bit stifling to me. And I realized, what am I doing? Who am I trying to emulate here? Because the only person I need to be and show up as is myself. And so I think part of me showing up on stage was really learning how to feel confident in my body and my style so that I'm not obsessing over tugging at my clothes and wondering if I look right. So now when you see me on stage, I will most likely be wearing a long, flowy print dress that is bright and bold and ridiculous. And I will have biker shorts underneath because that's what's really comfortable. And I'll probably be wearing tennis shoes or maybe some little cowgirl boots because I just love to embrace my cowgirl spirit. And when I show up that way, number one, I've already removed one of the barriers that gets in our way of distraction when we're standing on stage, which is, oh my gosh, do I look ridiculous? No, I feel great in my skin, in my clothes. And that already, removes one of the barriers. And I think that people also, I believe that your fashion and what you wear is an extension of your personality and your brand too, as a speaker, to be frank. And I think for me, really honing my own style and finding what makes me feel good and happy has made me show up better on stage. But I think it's also resonated with my audience a little bit better too. My energy matches what they see as well, if that makes sense.
Do you ever consider, and this is a question that I get, and I'm just curious, like what your take on it is. Do you ever consider like who you're speaking to and saying, like, let's say you're speaking to, a room full of accountants or something, and you're like, will they accept this like floral printed puffy sleeve and cowgirl boots person? Does that even cross your mind of before you go somewhere, like editing yourself or your look based on who you're speaking to?
I think that at the beginning of my career, my speaking career, it might have, but not anymore.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Yeah. It's interesting though, because we were talking about this in Mic Drop Academy the other night. It's like, oh, well, do you change yourself or your tone or your language based on who you're speaking to? And maybe when you're trying to find what your style is or find what feels good, then there's a time and a place for that. But I have seen speakers step into a role or a persona when they go on stage and then they take it off when they get off stage. And I'm like, that seems exhausting to me.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Of having to like keep up with like, well, who did they see me as?
Yeah.
And how do I show up for them there again? Yeah.
I think, one of the greatest compliments that I receive from people is you are exactly the person that I see online and exactly the person I see on stage. You are the same person when you catch me in the lobby. And I agree with you. It's exhausting. And I think I used to be a little bit more performative. Like, who do I need to be in this room to be seen as successful and powerful or whatever that is? And what I've come to realize, and this is that feminine energy coming through, is I am the most quote unquote powerful when I embrace and accept exactly who I am and allow that to be the energy that flows through me. And I think too that if someone's hiring you as a speaker, they are hiring you, yes, for your message, but also just for your energy and your passion. And I think what I've come to realize now is that, yes, my message is something that I'm offering, but I'm a whole brand. Like Coach Kiah is a brand, and what you see is what you get. You're going to get someone who might make poop jokes. I will most likely make poop jokes. The only time I will say that I will edit myself, I will make poop jokes. I don't care how professional the conference is. I might edit my language a little bit. I like to like, push the boundaries just a touch, because let's be honest, everyone thinks a poop joke is funny. And if you don't, you're probably lying to yourself. Okay. But I will edit my language sometimes if there are children in the room, for example, or some of my examples maybe. I don't edit my outfits, but I think it's important that we do understand the audience we're speaking to. So for example, I speak to a lot of rural women in ag groups. I grew up on a ranch. I can really speak to that audience. I understand the culture that they come from. And the examples that I might use to resonate with those people might not resonate with a group of accountants. So the only thing that I will edit in my talks from group to group is going to be the examples and lens through which I'm sharing the message so that they can see themselves in it. But I will not edit the energy in which I show up in or the style and vibe that I show up in.
Mm-hmm. Can we hit on that about finding your style? I feel like that's something that I have struggled with over the years. I feel like I've been more of a style chameleon rather than like who is Jess, and especially also when it comes to like size too. One of my favorite quotes from you is like, when clothes don't fit, bless and release. Just like you're catching a fish, bless and release. And I feel like especially the past couple years, being pregnant and then not, and then having a baby and then being pregnant again, it's like my wardrobe is like, who are you? What are you doing? And I'm having trouble figuring out like where I'm landing. I mean, not just physically, but even just like being a mom now. Not to say that I have to dress like a mom, but it also has changed the way I see myself and my personality. How did you have such an amazing style. What are some things you ask yourself, or how did you navigate that to find your style?
I love this question so much because number one, first of all, solidarity for all the ladies out there who struggle with this. I think most women struggle with this. And I also want to say, just speaking to your point, Jess, I think it's important for us to be compassionate, loving, and kind to ourselves as our bodies continue to change and ebb and flow, right? Motherhood, obviously your body is entirely different right now. You're actively pregnant right now. Postpartum, your body feels different. Also, we are ever changing beings, okay? Whether you gain weight, lose weight, and we're also aging all the time. And I feel like this is just my personal philosophy. I think that our society has always been obsessed with seeing our bodies as problems to be fixed, right? And everywhere we turn,
Because the whole industry would crash if we didn't believe that.
It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's massive, right?
Yeah.
And it's gotten so big also because none of it works. So you keep coming back for more.
Yeah.
So
that is so true.
It's so true. And I could get on my soapbox, but I won't do that today.
Yeah.
But we have been taught to believe that our bodies are problems to be solved. And I'll say this too. Your body is your body. Do what you want with it. If you want to lose weight, fine. If you want to, get Botox, whatever it is you want to do with your body, I support you. Do what you want with your body. However, I think it's important that we recognize how hyper obsessed with body image our society and culture has made us. So that we are spending all of our time and energy, our passion, our mental capacity, obsessing over the way that we look, whether we're trying to shrink our body, tone our body, take away the wrinkles from our body, color our hair, do all these things. I think it's all just a big way to distract women from stepping into exactly who they are. And if I could just snap my fingers and make women stop thinking about their bodies for a day, could you imagine what our world would accomplish?
What mental capacity we would have. Yeah.
And I am so passionate now about, I think people used to see me as a weight loss coach. That's kind of what my first personal brand was, because I had this weight loss transformation. That's why they came to me. And my brand now is the only weight that I want you to lose as a woman is the waiting that you've been doing to live your life fully. Stop waiting to lose the weight to go and find your style. Stop waiting to lose weight to finally wear the swimsuit and get in the pool with your kids. Stop waiting to lose the weight to book the travel or to go on the date or whatever these things are. That is the only weight I actually care for women to lose. Stop waiting to look a certain way before you have the audacity to claim the title as a speaker and get on stage and share your story. Our weight, our bodies hold so many of us back from the things that we want to do. I'm getting chills because I'm just so passionate about this.
I am too.
That's the weight I want you to lose. The weight you've been doing, sitting and waiting for yourself to look a certain way. It's bullshit. I'm sorry. I did not ask permission if I could say that word on here.
You 100% can, because
it's bullshit.
It is warranted. I hope that is prime time in your talk, because that is something that everyone needs to hear. So if you have to close one piece of advice for a woman who is maybe just getting started in her thought leadership journey, or just getting started allowing herself to be seen, in that way, what advice would you give?
One piece of advice I would say to someone who wants to be a thought leader, who wants maybe the thing that you have in your head is, one day I want to be a speaker. My piece of advice for you right now is I want you to introduce yourself next time you talk to someone as a speaker. Because I think the way that you become a speaker is by saying you're a speaker. A lot of us think that we need to earn the title before we can embrace the identity, but we have to learn to embrace the identity so that we can show up and embody it, right? That's the way I became a speaker. I said, hi, my name is Kiah and I'm a speaker. And when someone says, oh, you're a speaker, we're looking for someone at our next event. The way you learn how to confidently show up as a speaker is to start speaking. And to start speaking, you have to say, I am a speaker, even if you've never spoken into a microphone, even if you've never stood on stage. So if you are just sitting right now in your room or riding your Peloton or going for a walk, I want you to say right now, I am a speaker, and see how it feels.
Literally, this is the number one piece of advice. Like, people cannot book you to speak if they don't know you're a speaker. It's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Like, you have to be able to claim it in order to start getting those opportunities. Kiah, you are amazing. One of my favorite follows on Instagram. You're also on LinkedIn. Where else can people find you? Where can people book you to speak?
Thank you.
And MC. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Side note on the MC thing. MCing is probably one of my favorite things ever. I love being
You're so good at it.
But I love being an MC because let's face it, nobody wants to go to a boring conference. And I am going to toot my own horn here and say, I am really good improv. And if nothing else, my energy is my currency. And that's what I bring to the table as an MC. So if you're looking for an energetic MC who might make a poop joke, I'll confess, I am your girl. The way that you can find me and learn more is go to my website, coachkiah.com. That's coach, KIAH.com. If you do a /speaking, you can see my speaker page and request to book me there. As Jess mentioned, I'm on social media. My favorite place probably to hang out is Instagram. So if you resonated with any of this, I'd love for you to follow me over there. Let's connect.
Kiah, you're the best. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks for listening to Amplify. If you are a fan of the show, show us some podcast love by giving us a rating and review. And give us a follow at Mic Drop Workshop and at Jess Ekstrom. This episode was edited and produced by Earfluence, and I'm Jess Ekstrom, your host. Remember that you deserve the biggest stage, so let's find out how to get you there. I'll see you again soon.